We'll start with Deshaun Watson. Big debut. And like you mentioned earlier, pretty anticlimactic here. We had predicted that there was going to be a decent amount of rust that he needed to shake off. And that's exactly what we saw.
Yeah, and I would take that a step further even. I would just say, like, the crowd booed him in that, but I think it was even more subdued than anyone even realized. Because
well, and I think that, they talked about it in the when they were broadcasting the game, like leading up to it and things in the pregame. I know the allegations and I know all of the bad that comes along with that. But in that community, he was very beloved because he's done a ton of work in that community and everything. And I think that just with the fact that he hasn't been, he never got charged criminally, and that everything else got settled. And so, I mean, for whether you love it or hate it anywhere else, he comes out of this fairly unscathed. I think that in a lot of the fans' minds down there, they still see him as that guy that did all the charity work around town, and they don't see him as a monster as some other people do.
It's just such a unique circumstance. The only thing, like, as I'm thinking about, like, Deshaun coming back after 2 years off, like, what can I compare that to? Because it's a little bit unprecedented. There really aren't stories of guys outside of injuries
Mike
that
Vick
have taken
the only other one.
time off. Michael Vick is the only one that I could come up with to kind of compare it to. And I think in a lot of ways, Mike Vick's experience is similar because of the fact that he had laid groundwork in Atlanta and then in Philadelphia, and those towns still, I'm sure there's pockets of people there that
and besides
really appreciate
that,
Mike
I
Vick.
think people were they were even more against Mike Vick than they are Deshaun Watson because Mike Vick was convicted. He went to jail for 2 years.
Right.
So
that's why it's so hard to even compare it to that, because like Mike Vick's a criminal.
like by definition, he's a criminal.
Right.
Whether or not any of the allegations are true or not, by definition, Deshaun Watson is not a criminal.
True.
He was not convicted of anything.
No, and he was levied punishment and served his time.
Right, and like we say it all the time. I'm not going to dive into all the politics of that and where I stand or where you stand because it doesn't matter, to be honest with you. But I think that goes a long way with, like I said, with the fans and how they view him, because you don't have that convicted felon next to your name, and you're
and I think too, just the Texans are such a mess at this point.
They're just like our team.
I mean, that stadium was embarrassingly empty.
Oh, yeah. There's hardly anybody there. But anyways, Deshaun Watson, his numbers on the day, 12 of 22, 131 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception. And like we said, that interception was bad.
You can't throw a red zone.
It was just a delayed. What was it? The linebacker or the defensive lineman dropped into coverage at the last second. He threw it right to him.
Yeah.
Like, directly to him.
It's a bad look, and good quarterbacks make mistakes all the time. But just in general, this game, it was so weird because for the last few years we've been so used to watching Baker overthrow guys. It was weird.
It was weird seeing a guy
underthrow so many passes.
I texted you halfway through the game, and I was like, "Dang, that's a lot of underthrows."
Like the first time it happened, you were like, "Okay, like he let it rip a little hard, whatever," and then it happened again. And then it was all game long.
Was he breaking wind?
And you were like, "What? Why does he keep doing that?"
He did it quite a few times. Yeah.
So I think there's obviously some mechanical things going on there, which again I think is probably natural when you've taken that much time off.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a lot of work he has to do to refine his throwing mechanics and throwing motion to get back to where he was. The good things that came out of this debut, I think he did show. Even though he's not in football shape yet, I think he showed some elusiveness and ability to move around in the pocket. He didn't have a ton of big runs on the day, but he was able to
the one run that he had, it was only an
around.
8-yard run, but it was impressive. I mean, he juked one of the guys out of their shoes and evaded the pass rush in the backfield before that, and it was... we argued back and forth all year about how mobile Jacoby Brissett was, and I still maintain that he's very good at getting out of trouble, but Deshaun Watson's on a whole nother level. I mean,
totally. I mean, he's a totally different athlete, and
so dynamic.
So it was good to see that they didn't stretch the field a whole lot, which I was surprised that they didn't take a shot or two just to let him lengthen his arm out, but yeah, just overall, just very kind of. Wet blanket in terms of debut. The good news is the team won, so you can't be that upset about it. My biggest concern going forward for Deshaun Watson is I agree. Totally natural for him to have some rust coming back. My question and concern is, how long does it take to shake that rust? Because
and that's where there's a lot of debate on this among Browns fans. If you read forums, if you read any of social media, whatever, people argue back and forth. There's so many Browns fans that think, oh well, he's considered one of the best quarterbacks and all this stuff. And I saw a bunch of comments about he should have. I actually saw this on social media today. Somebody said he should have played backyard football and got guys together to give him looks while he was away from the facility. I'm like,
it's
what people don't understand.
It's effectively what he did.
Well, and what people don't understand is there's a big difference between any of the guys that he's able to pull together off the streets in an NFL defense.
Oh yeah, he's playing with Division III college athletes and high school kids.
Yeah, of course he's going to torch them in his backyard, but that's not the same speed, the same things that he's going to see on game day.
He's been torching the Browns in practice. People, the media that have been at the open practice days have been nonstop talking about how good he's looked. But it's, to your point, a totally different speed when you get to game level.
Yeah, those guys, they kick it up another notch, and it's faster than anything he's seen in multiple years. And you asked about how long it's going to take to shake the rust off. I think it's going to take a little bit of time. Unfortunately, we don't have time, but I think
well, that's the thing. Right?
I think this year is pretty much lost. I mean, nobody wants to admit it, but I think it's pretty much lost because I do think there's going to be rust, and I think it's going to take him several games to get back to form, and maybe even the rest of this year.
And that's kind of where I was coming from. Is I don't know that it's unreasonable for it to take him the rest of this season, and for him,
Browns fans will say it's unreasonable
for him to really not look like Deshaun Watson until after a full off season of OTAs, mini camp, training camp, and regular practices with the team, where he's taken all the 1 reps all season long.
Yeah, a lot of Browns fans will say it's too long, but I mean, it's an investment. It's a long-term investment for us. We need to give it time.
It's not like Bitcoin.
No.
Or it is like Bitcoin. Nobody knows. Ask that Bankman-Fried guy.
It's something.